Hello and welcome to Forest Biology. So today in this video we are going to look into the next chapter of our NCERT highlights, that is Animal Kingdom. So without wasting time, let's go down. So the important points here are in sponges the cells are arranged in a loose cell aggregates, so they exhibit cellular level of organization. So these are the levels of organization. In coelentrates the arrangement is more complex and they are arranged into tissues. So in coelenterate it is tissue level of organization. More than that is organ, after that is organ system level. Organ level is exhibited by many members of the platyhelminthes and other phyla where the tissues are grouped into together to form few organs. In animals like Annelida, arthropods, mollusks, echinoderms, chordates, they have organ system, means complete organ system level of organization is present. For example, the digestive system of the in the platyhelminthes only has a single opening to the outside of the body that serves as both mouth and anus, and it is called incomplete. So if there is only single opening, it is called incomplete, and if there are two openings, it is called complete with mouth and anus. And moving on to circulatory system, open type and closed type. Closed type in the sense the blood is circulated through a series of vessels of varying diameters, and open type is blood is pumped out of the heart and the cells and tissues are directly bathed in it. So it will be floating in the cells and tissue will be floating in the blood. Next, moving on to symmetry, sponges are mostly asymmetrical. That means any plane that passes through the center does not divide into two halves. So here if you can see, if this is a plane, there are two halves here. So this is bilateral symmetry. If there is no two half, it is asymmetrical. And if any plane passing through the central and divides it into two identical, so both of them are identical, then it is called radial symmetry. Coelentrates, ctenophores and echinoderms are exhibit radial symmetry. Then annelids, arthropods exhibit bilateral symmetry where the body can be divided into identical left and right halves in only one plane. So why this is bilateral symmetry is, if you divide like this only, you will have two identical. See, if you divide in this way, both are not identical. So this is bilateral symmetry. Next, moving on to diploblastic and triploblastic organization. An external ectoderm and internal endoderm are diploblastic. So there are two layers as diploblastic. Example is coelentrates. And if there is an undifferentiated mesoglia is present, if there is undifferentiated mesoglia present in between ecto and endoderm. Okay, so this is diploblastic. Triploblastic in the sense those organisms in which the developing embryo has a third germinal layer which is called mesoderm. Mesoglia is present in diploblastic, mesoderm is present in triploblastic. This starts from platyhelminths to chordates completely. Next, moving into coelom. The body cavity which is lined by the mesoderm. If there is a mesoderm, it is called coelom, and the animals possessing it is called coelomate animals. Example: Annelida, mollusk, arthropods, echinoderm, hemichordate, and chordate. And if the body cavity is not lined by the mesoderm and the mesoderm is present at scattered pouches in between the ectoderm and endoderm, these are called pseudocoelomate animals. So if you see, these are the scattered pouches. Next, if the body cavity itself is absent, then it is called acoelomates, that is in platyhelminthes. Moving on to segmentation, in earthworm the body shows this pattern called metameric segmentation. So they are internally and externally divided into segments, which is called metamerism. Notochord, this is very important. Notochord is mesodermal in origin. NM. So NM. Notochord is mesodermal in origin. They are formed on the dorsal side during the embryonic development in some animals. So they are formed in the dorsal side, mesodermal. And if the notochord is present, it is called chordates. If not, it is called non-chordates. Non-chordates are formed from porifera to echinoderm. Now we'll moving on to the classification of animals. If you see, this table is very important because they might give the direct table and they may give fill in the blanks type of thing. So please go through this with once. And if you have to see, You have to also note here there is a star here, that is because echinodermata exhibits both radial or bilateral symmetry depending on the which stage it is, and you have to know each and everything which I have already explained. Cellular tissue, asymmetrical, radial, bilateral, acylomate, here acylomate, pseudocoelomate, coelomate, and the phylum name. Next, moving on to each phylum. So first phylum is Porifera. Porifera members are mostly sponges, and they exhibit cellular level of organization, which I already said, and you have to know the distinct feature of each phylum. So here they have a water transport or canal system. What happens here is water enters through the minute pores called ostia. Ostia is the pore. Water enters through this pore in the body wall into a central cavity. There is a spongocoel cavity from where it goes out through osculum. So enters through ostia, the cavity is called spongocoel, goes out through osculum. So this pathway of water transport is helpful in food gathering, respiratory exchange, removal of water. And there are kynocytes or collar cells that line the spongocoel and the canals. And you have to note down that the digestion is intracellular inside itself, and the body is supported by a skeleton made up of spicules or spongin fibers. Here the sexes are not separate, they are hermaphrodite. That means both are produced in the male and female, both are produced in the same individual. Here the fertilization is internal, development is indirect, having a larval stage which is morphological distinct from adult. The main thing about this chapter is the example. So you should remember each example. So Sycon, Sypha, Spongilla, freshwater sponge, Euspongia, bath sponge. So why this is why? Spongilla is fresh water. Euspongia is bath waters. Bath sponge. Next, coelenterate or nidaria. Next phylum is coelenterate or nidaria. Nidaria is derived from the nidoblasts or nidocytes. These are the stinging capsules present in these members, and they have the tentacles on the body. Nidoblasts are used for anchorage, defense, or capture of prey. This is a very important question they may ask in accession or reasoning. And they have tissue level of organization. Only cellular is sponges. Tissue level, and they are diploblastic. That is, they have mesoglium. Now they have sent the main distinct feature, we'll study it as polyp and medusa. Before that, they have central gastrovascular cavity with a single opening mouth on the hypostome. Here the digestion is extracellular and intracellular. Both are there, whereas in sponges it was only intracellular. Here some of the cnidarians have corals, which is made up of calcium carbonate. See, corals, calcium carbonate, and they have two basic forms, that is polyp and medusa. So the former, that is polyp, looks like a hydra adamantia, whereas the later medusa is kind of a umbrella shape that looks like aurelia or jellyfish. Here they exhibit alternation of generation, that is metagenesis, which is a most distinguished feature. In sponges it was water column system. Here it is metagenesis, where the polyps produce medusa asexually and the medusa form the polyps sexually. Example is Obelia. These are the examples of this phylum, that is Physelia. This is very important. They've asked in MCQ many times. Portuguese man of war is Physelia. Adamantia is sea anemone. Penatula is sea pen. Gorgonia is sea fan. Meandrina is brain coral. Next, moving to the next phylum, Ctenophora. So, Ctenophora are commonly known as sea walnuts or comb jellies, and they have radial symmetry, diploblastic with tissue level of organization. So the main feature of this is bioluminescence. Before that, they also have 8 external rows of ciliated comb plates. So you should know the number 8 external rows. And the digestion is extracellular and intracellular. They have a bioluminescence property, that is the property to emit light. Sexes are not separate. Reproduction takes place only by sexual means, and the fertilization is external with indirect development. So examples are Pleurobrachia and Tenoplana. Next phylum is Platyhelminthes. So they have dorso-ventrally flattened body, hence are called as flatworms. They are mostly endoparasites. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, acylomate animals with organ level of organization. So from here, organ level of organization. The main property is they have hooks and suckers which are present in the parasitic form. They also have specialized cells called flame cells which help in osmoregulation and excretion. Here also the sexes are not separate. Fertilization is internal and development is through many stages, many larval stages. Here the example of planaria is given, which is very important. They have high regeneration capacity. The examples are tinea, that is tapeworm, and fasciola, that is liver fluke. So these are the example. Next phylum is Ascalhelminthes. In Ascalhelminthes, the body is circular, and for this they have given the name as roundworms. They have organ system level. From here, organ system level of organization. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, pseudocoelomate animals, and they have alimentary canal is complete with muscular pharynx is also present here, and they have an excretory tube through which the body waste are removed through the excretory port. The sexes are separate, that is dioecious. Often, this is very important, females are longer than males. If you can see here, females are longer than males. Fertilization is in the internal, development may be direct or indirect. Examples are Ascaris, that is roundworm, Eukarya filaria worm, and Ancyclostoma, that is hookworm. Ankylostoma, that is hookworm. Next, phylum Annelida. So this they have organ system level of organization with bilaterally symmetry. So if you divide this in one plane, there are two symmetry. They are metamerically segmented. Only this has metamerically segmented. Their bodies are marked out into segments or metamers. So they have metamerism property, and nereis is possess lateral appendages, that is parapodia, which helps them in swimming. So this is one of the annelida. And a closed circulatory system. Here closed circulatory system is present. They also have nephridia, which helps in osmoregulation and excretion. They have double ventral nerve cord, and nereis, which is an annelida, is dioecious, but earthworm and leeches are monoecious. So you should remember this exception. Reproduction is sexual, and these are the examples: earthworm, Hirudoneria, which is a blood-sucking leech, and nereis. Next, moving to the arthropoda. So this is the largest phylum of Animalia, which includes insects. Over two-thirds of all the species on the earth are arthropods. So they have organ system level of organization, bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, segmented, and coelomate animals. So this is very important that the arthropods body are made up of chitinous exoskeleton, which is same as fungi. Fungi also has chitin, and this also has chitin. So their body is divided into head, thorax, and abdomen. They have the jointed appendages, so they are called as arthropoda. Respiratory organs are through gills, book lungs, or tracheal system, and the circulatory system is of open type. Excretion takes place through Malpighian tubules. They are dioecious. Fertilization is usually internal, and they are mostly oviparous. They not viviparous, oviparous. Development may be direct or indirect. So there are few economically important insects such as apis, honeybee, bombyx, silkworm, lacifer, lac insect. Vectors are Anopheles, Culex, Aedes, mosquitoes. This is important. Gregarious pestis, Locusta, that is locust. Living fossil is Limulus, that is king crab. So this may be given in MCQ or randomly also. You have to know this living fossil is Limulus, gregarious pestis, Locusta. These are the vectors and these are the examples. So you should know all this. And next, phylum Mollusca. This is the second largest after the arthropoda. They have organ system level of organization. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic, and coelomate animals. They have a body which is covered with a calcareous shell, and it is unsegmented as such in Annelida. They have distinct head, muscular foot, and visceral hump. The space between the hump and the mantle is called as mantle cavity, in which the feather-like gills are also present. The anterior head region has sensory tentacles, and the mouth contains a fly-like grasping organ for feeding called as radula. So this is the important feature. They are usually dioecious and oviparous with indirect development. So pilla is called apple snake. Examples: Pinctiada pearl oyster, sepia cuttlefish, loligo squid, octopus devilfish, Aplasia sea hare, Dentalium tusk shell, and Keratoplura chiton. So these are the examples. You should know the common name and also the phylum examples name. So next is phylum Echinodermata. This is very important because they have asked many questions from this phylum also. They have endoskeleton of calcareous ossicles and hence named as Echinodermata. They have organ system level of organization and all of them are marine. So the adult echinoderms are radially symmetrical, but the larva is bilateral. Adult radial, larva bilateral. They have triploblastic and coelomate animals. The digestive system is complete, and the main distinguished feature is echinoderm is the a presence of water vascular system which helps in locomotion, capture, transport of food and respiration. Excretory system is absent, sexes are separate, reproduction is sexual, and the fertilization is usually external. Development is indirect with free swimming larvae. The examples are Asteriasis, Echinus, Antedon, Cucumeria, and Ophiria. You should know the common name also. Next, moving on to phylum Hemichordata. Hemichordatas have rudimentary structure in the collar region called stromochord. You should know this stromochord, a structure similar to notochord. So this phylum consists of a small group of worm-like marine animals with organ system level of organization. They are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic coelomate animals, and the body is cylindrical and is composed of an anterior proboscis, collar. So if you see here, this is proboscis, collar, and the last one is trunk. Circulatory system is of open type and the respiration takes place through gills. Excretory organ is the proboscis gland. Sexes are separate, fertilization is external and development is indirect. Examples are balanoglossus and sacoglossus. Next, moving on to phylum Chordata, which is important. So they are characterized by the presence of notochord, that is dorso hollow ventral. They have notochord, dorso hollow nerve cord, and paired pharyngeal gill slits. So they are bilaterally symmetrical, triploblastic coelomate with organ system level of organization. So they have post anal tail also, and they have closed circulatory system. So in this, the comparison between these two are important, and the main thing which you should remember is the central nervous system is dorsal in chordates, whereas it is ventral in non-coordinates. So you can remember CVN, CDC, CVN, CDC. So you can remember this. And heart is ventral here, heart is dorsal if present. So you can remember HVC and HDN. Okay. Next, so if you know any one of this, the other one would be exact opposite. Next, the phylum chordata is divided into three types, that is Urochordata, Cephalochordata, and Vertebrata. Urochordata and Cephalochordata are called as protochordates together. In Urochordata, the notochord is present only in the larval tail, while in Cephalochordata, it extends from head to tail region and is persistent throughout the life. So it's present throughout. So you can see the example, but this is not much important. You have to know the example because this chapter is mostly based on the examples. Urochordata is Acidia, Salpa, Dolium, and Cephalochordata is Branchiostoma. Next, moving on to the vertebrate subphylum. So they have notochord during the embryonic period itself, and the notochord is replaced by vertebral column in adults. So this statement is important because they may give you in assertion and reasoning also. All vertebrates are chordates, but all chordates are not vertebrate. So all vertebrates are chordates, but all chordates are not vertebrates. Vertebrates have a ventral muscular heart with 2, 3 or 4 chambers, kidneys for excretion and osmoregulation, and paired appendages which may be fins or limbs. And this table is important and it has been already repeated in the previous year. So they'll give some blank space and you have to fill this. So please make sure that you go through this table. Next, class. So this comes under Agnatha. That is, it lacks jaws. So cyclostomata, they have an elongated body bearing 6 to 15 pairs of gill slits for respiration. So they have cyclostomes for sucking and circular mouth without jaws. So Agnatha in the sense they lack jaws. The circulation is of closed type. The examples you should remember: petromycin, that is lamprey, and myxin, that is hagfish. Next is chondrocyte. So it comes under this. It bears fins, Gnathostomata, superclass in the Pisces. Next, so in this, mouth is located ventrally. Notochord is persistent throughout the life. Gill slits are separate and without operculum. It contains minute placoid scales, and due to the absence of air, this is very important. Due to they do not have air bladder, so they have to swim constantly to avoid sinking. Then the heart is two-chambered with auricle and one ventria. They have a few of them have electric organs, so you should remember this name, that is torpedo. They have a few of them has poison sting, that is trigon, and they're cold-blooded animals. Sexes are separate. They have internal fertilization and are viviparous. So example is Scoliodon, Pritis, Carcharodon and Trigon. So these are the examples. Next, osteocyte. So they have four pairs of gills which are covered by an operculum on each side. They have air bladder to maintain the buoyancy. Heart is two-chambered, and they are cold-blooded animals. Sexes are separate. Fertilization is usually external, and they are oviparous and development is direct. So you should remember this examples also. So for marine, it is exocoitus and hippocampus, whereas freshwater is labio, cutla, clarius, and aquarium is pterophylum. Okay. Next, class amphibia. Amphibian can live in aquatic as well as terrestrial habitats, and they have two pairs of limb, and the body is divisible into head and trunk. So the eyes have eyelids. They have a tympanum which represents a ear, and alimentary canal, urinary and reproductive tract opens into one common chamber that is called cloaca, which opens to exterior. Respiration is by gills, lungs, and through skin. It has three-chambered heart and they're cold-blooded. Sexes are separate. Fertilization is external, oviparous, and development is indirect. So you have to remember this also. Buffo is toad, rana frog, hyla tree frog, salamander, Ichthyopus limbless, amphibia. Next, moving on to class Reptilia. So, Reptilia refers to that they are creeping or crawling mode of locomotion. They are terrestrial animals and their body is covered with dry and cornified skin which has epidermal scales or scute. The tympanum represents here also, even in this amphibia class also. Next, limbs when present, that of two pairs. Heart is usually three-chambered but four-chambered in crocodiles. So this is very important. They have asked many times and it might be repeated. Four-chambered in crocodiles. Sexes are separate. Fertilization is internal. Oviparous and development is direct. So you can remember this examples. It is easy. Crocodile, crocodilus, calotus, garden lizard, testudo, tortoise. You can remember this. Next, class Aves. Aves is nothing but birds. Their distinct feature is the presence of feather, and most of them can fly except the flightless bird. Only one bird which cannot fly is ostrich. So they possess beak, and the forelimbs are modified into wings. The hind limbs generally have scales and are modified for walking, swimming, or clasping the tree branches. The skin is dry, and they do not have any gland except oil gland that is present at the base of the tail. Endoskeleton is fully ossified and the long bones are hollow with air cavities, that is pneumatic, and their digestive tract has crop and gizzard. Their heart is completely four-chambered. They are warm-blooded animal and respiration is by lungs. Then the sexes are separate, fertilization is internal, oviparous, development is direct. And you can remember the examples, it is easy. Next, moving on to class Mammalia. Some of them have adapted to fly or live in water, and the unique feature of this is presence of mammary glands by which they nourish their young ones. They have two pair of limbs adapted for walking, running, climbing, burrowing, swimming, or flying, and the skin of the mammals is unique in possessing hair. External ears or pinnae are present, so they do not have tympanum. They have external ears or pinnae. Heart is fourth chamber. They are homeothermals, and the respiration is by lungs. Sexes are separate, and fertilization is internal. They are viviparous with few exceptions, and development is direct. And you can remember the example. And also, please go through this table. In this table, they have given the complete chapter summary in a summary form in this table. You can also please concentrate on the distinctive features of the different animal kingdom. So this is all about Animal Kingdom. Thank you all. Please like, share and subscribe so that you don't miss out any notification. Thank you, and please wait for the next chapter. Thank you.